Our story begins while our main protagonist Momonga is immersed in a DMMO-RPG, or massively multiplayer online role-playing game. Despite its popularity, the game is going to come to an end after 12 years of success. Momonga sat in the throne chamber, waiting for the game server to go down, and took one final glance at the game before closing his eyes and waited. He reminded himself that he still had to wake up early the next day for work. As the seconds pass, the time for the shutdown arrives, but instead of being kicked out, he remains in the game. He is perplexed because when he attempted to bring up the game system, it mysteriously vanished. He comes to the idea that he may be trapped in the game, so he begins to instruct the NPC to protect the tomb. He first directs Sebas to leave the tomb to explore the surrounding region, and then he directs the Pleiades to protect the 9th floor. He then gave the order to Albedo to come close and he was able to smell her scent. He realized that this is no longer a game, but real life. Looks like he's in the game for real now. As any otaku would, he must test to ensure that everything is as he expects, so he started gripping Albedo by her chest, only for research purposes. He realized that what he feels is the real thing. This further proves his theory of he's in the game for real now. As he makes plans to test out his power in this world, he orders Albedo to summon all the guardians except for the 4th and 8th to the 6th floor's fighting arena. As soon as all of the floor guardians arrived at the fighting arena, they knelt to greet and swear fealty to the great ruler of Nazareth, our main protagonist evidently. When Momonga wishes to explore the surrounding areas, he first puts on the armor set to disguise himself. As he teleports to the first floor of the tomb, he encounters Demiurge, who has been assigned to defend the tomb of Nazareth. Demiurge joins him on his exploration of the surrounding areas. They fly high into the sky and witness how lovely this world is, and Demiurge adds that it exists for your taking, to which he replies, taking over the world, that doesn't sound too bad. While practicing his magic with a magical object to serve the surrounding lands, Momonga notices a town that has been assaulted by a group of soldiers. He soon uses teleportation magic to get there to help the villager because a great friend of his once said, helping someone who is in need is always the right thing to do. He requested that Sebas inform Albedo to come in full battle armor to assist him. As he came out of the teleportation portal, he noticed 2 soldiers ready to kill a young girl and her sister. He quickly killed one with Grasp Heart and used Dragon Lightning to kill the second. He then used the body of the dead soldier to summon the undead and commanded it to attack the soldier who's wearing those armor. As he glances back, he notices that the young girl has been harmed by the soldier, so he gives her a potion to help her heal. When the girl inquired for his name as he was ready to leave, he replied, "You will remember me as Ainz ul Gaun." As the undead Death Knight butchered the soldiers, Ainz ordered it to stop and commanded the soldier to leave and spray his name to their employer. When the village chief notices that all of the soldiers have fled, he praises Ainz for his help, and in gratitude, the village chief gives Ainz gold and information about the surrounding territories. The village therein is called Carni Village, and it's part of the Re-Est Kingdom. On the other side of the kingdom to the east is the Baharuth Empire, and the 2 countries are feuding. They frequently fight in the broad plains near Ran-Tel. In the south, lays the Slain Theocracy. It is thought that the Slain Theocracy staged this attack on the Re-Est Kingdom in order to spark conflict between the Re-Est Kingdom and the Baharu Kingdom. When the village had received word that another group of soldiers was approaching the village, they assumed that more bad people were on their way, so Ainz offered to protect them once more. As it turns out, the group of soldiers is led by the chief warrior from the Re-Est Kingdom, Gazefstronov. As Gazefstronov prepared to greet Ainz, his soldier informed him that another group of soldiers had surrounded the village. Gazefstronov understands that the party of soldiers who have arrived is bad news, so he asked Ainz to provide his protection to the village once again as he goes to battle the enemy. As Gazefstronov and his soldiers charge at the adversary, we notice that they have summoned some kind of angel to do their bidding. As Gazefstronov charged closer to the adversary, the angels began assaulting him. Using his martial arts skills, he was able to effortlessly take them all down. However, the angels that were destroyed can be resummoned, putting him in danger. As the conflict progresses, all of his warriors are defeated, leaving him to combat the enemy alone. Just when the enemy was about to deal a fatal strike, Ainz used magic to swap places with the general. As Ainz showed up in front of the enemy, he stated, "Offer your pitiful lives without resistance. Do this, there will be no pain. However, if you refuse, you will die painfully and in despair." When the enemies saw that Ainz was just a regular magic caster, they began commanding angels to attack him. As two angels strike two swords into Ainz's body, they thought he was simply talking big, but they quickly find that Ainz has handled the angel with just one physical hit. The enemy is amazed that Ainz was able to destroy two angels with a physical strike, so they began sending all of the angels at once to attack him. Just as the angels were about to reach Ainz, he cast a magical spell, a negative burst, which instantly destroyed all of the angels. The enemy's head is taken aback by Ainz's power, so he prepares to release the highest tier of the angel from a crystal. When Ainz notices that the magical crystal has the ability to seal a high-level angel, he instructs Albedo to use her skills to protect him. As the enemy proceed with the summon, we see that a tier 7 angel has been summoned. As the enemy cheer at the sight of this divine power, Ainz is shocked, because their so-called trump card is so weak. Ordering Albedo to defend him was a waste of effort. As the enemy's head listens to the words coming out of Ainz's mouth, he is in a state of shock since no human power can compete with divine might, but Ainz said that this was just a child's play. As a result, he instructs the angel to attack Ainz with Holy Smite. Ainz stood still and took the hit straight on and then started laughing uncontrollably. "So this is what it's like to take damage," he said. As Ainz wants to destroy all hope in the enemy, he destroyed the divine angel with one spell, Black Hole. And the night turned dark again. The adversary recognized that even demons don't have this sort of strength, and what they're up against is beyond their conception, so they began begging for their lives, but Ainz had already offered them the choice of a painless death, which they had rejected, so Ainz made them vanish forever in the darkness of the night. As Ainz is back in the throne room, he assembled all the tomb members and declared that he will be known as Ainz Ul Gaon from now on. And he orders that the name be spread far and wide. Ainz had an idea for acquiring information, therefore the adventure began in the capital city of Rantel. He first went to the Adventurers Guild to get registered as a bronze-ranked adventurer, along with his companion Narbel Gamma, a member of the Pleiades. He was shortly approached by a group of silver-ranked adventurers who invited him to join them on a quest to clear some monsters on the outskirts of the city. He accepted the offer, and when they were ready to depart and begin the mission, an alchemist boy named Enfiria Barrett approached him about hiring him as a bodyguard for his herb-collecting excursion. He initially denied the offer, but then accepted it on the condition that his present party be included in the job. Enfiria gladly accepted the condition and recruited all of them, but Ainz must first accomplish his current task, which is hunting monsters outside of town. As we can see, two cult members are conspiring against Enfiria since they require him for his particular talent, which allows him to use any magical equipment without training. Ainz's party was ambushed by a group of goblins and ogres on the outskirts of the city, but they were easily defeated. Ainz utilized his sword expertise to dispatch all of the enemies, while Nabe used her magic to dispatch the others. After completing the monster hunting task, they began heading towards Carney Village to obtain the herbs required by Enfiria. In the dead of night, we observe a cult member slay two adventurers in order to find out whereabouts of Enfiria. As the party approaches Carney Village, it looks like there's a group of goblins in front of them blocking their way. It turns out that these goblins are summoned by a magical item that Ainz gifts to the young girl named Enri when the village was attacked. Looks like the goblins are protecting the village now. Enri and Enfiria turn out to be good friends, and they rapidly address the issues. The party then journeys into the forest to pick herbs for Enfiria, only to learn that the forest is controlled by the Wise King, a fabled beast who dwells deep within the forest. Ainz believes that defeating the Wise King of the forest will greatly increase his fame, so he sets out to find and defeat the beast. As soon as the wise king of the forest sensed adversary arrived in his territory, he began charging at them. When the wise king approaches Ainz gets a close look at it, and it turns out that the wise king of the forest is merely a huge hamster, which Ainz defeats with a level 1 magic spell. The party completed the herb picking and returned to Iran Tel to store the herbs, while Ainz escorted the wise king to the guild to be registered. When Enfuria enters his home, he sees that someone is already waiting for him there. As it turns out, the woman is the cult member who has been seeking for him. She immediately killed the rest of the party and abducted Enfuria. Ainz ran into Enfuria's grandmother at the guild, and the two walked together to the shop because Ainz still needed to collect payment from Enfuria. As they enter the shop, Ainz detects something amiss. As he proceeded to the back room, he discovered the dead of the party members who were meant to help unload the herbs with Enfuria were gone. Ainz offered to assist the grandmother in rescuing her grandchild in exchange for everything she has, and she reluctantly agreed to the agreement. As Nabe cast searching spell to locate the position of Enfuria, they were able to locate him in the graveyard of the city. At the graveyard, the guards started panicking because they see armies of undead walking toward them. Ainz soon showed up to offer his assistance, as he, Nabe, and Hamsky charge into the graveyard and kill all of the undead in the way. They soon reach a group of cult members that's behind the summons of all the undead. As it turned out, the woman who snatched Enfuria was also present, so Ainz chose to battle her while leaving the rest of the enemy to Nabe. Ainz and the woman move away from Nabe so they can fight in peace. Ainz vowed that he will kill her in the most painful way imaginable as a result of her actions. Nabe quickly began her combat, casting lightning spells and attacking the group of enemies in front of her. Nabe was able to kill all of the cult members except for the one in red. The cult member in red started summoning a skeleton dragon to battle. Because the dragon is magic immune, Nabe began fighting the dragon with her sword, but the caster was able to heal the monster with magic. When the caster realizes that one dragon will not be enough to defeat Nabe, he conjures a second skeleton dragon. When Ainz sees that the caster has summoned 2 skeleton dragons, he knows that Nabe won't be able to win if she fights as Nabe, so he told Nabe to show them the power of Nazareth. As soon as Nabe heard Lord Ainz's command, she began using her true power, revealing her battle mage armor. She will no longer battle as Nabe, but as a member of the Pleiades, Narbro Gamma. As Nabe said, the skeleton dragon is not magic immune, but only to magic of the 6th tier or lower, yet, she is capable of casting higher tier magic that could easily wipe out the skeleton dragon. The caster believes that no human can cast magic higher than the 6th tier, that power belongs exclusively to the gods. Nabe stated that she will showing him 7th tier magic, but the cost will be his life. As Nabe performs her magic, we witness 2 lightning dragons fly towards the skeleton dragon and easily destroy them, killing the caster and causing him to vanish into dust. As we return to Ainz's battle, we see that it has reached a climax, as the woman began utilizing all of her martial arts skills to enhance her body, charging at Ainz and stabbing him in both eyes. Ainz gripped her waist and revealed his true form as an undead overlord. Ainz slowly tightened his grasp on her bones and internal organs, causing her to bleed out of her eyes, mouth, and ears and eventually killing her in the most agonizing way conceivable. After the battle, Ainz focuses his efforts on saving Enfuria, finding him inside the cult's lair and rescuing him. We observe a carriage heading by with Sabos and one of the floor guardians, Sheltier Blood Fallen, inside. They were shortly attacked on the route by a gang of bandits. One of the members approached the carriage as they surrounded it. Sheltier quickly walked out of the carriage and began killing all of the men while collecting their blood. Sebastian was still on an intelligence gathering mission, so he parted ways with Sheltier. Sheltier began headed towards the bandit hideaway when one of her underlings reported that they had discovered it. As Sheltier entered the cave, she began slaughtering every living human she saw, until a guy named Brain Ungloss blocked her path. Brain began deploying his force field as they finished introducing each other with names, and with his technique God Flash, he believes he has a shot to defeat Sheltier. When Sheltier notices that Brain has finished his preparation, she begins to approach him, and when she enters into the force field, Brain strikes. Sheltier, on the other hand, was able to block his blade with her bare hands. Brain realized she was beyond what humans are capable of, that no human could ever defeat someone like her, and he began crying and fleeing in terror. Sheltier soon transformed and pursued after Brain, killing everyone in her path. When Sheltier chased him outside, she summoned her household monster to chase after him, but soon, all of her summoned monster was defeated. She rages and charges in the direction of where her household monster was defeated. As she exits the forest, she notices a gathering of individuals in front of her and attacks them right away. As she approached the gathering of individuals, one of them began chanting a powerful spell, so she charged towards her, but she was halted by a frontline tank, but she was able to kill the tank and injure the caster, but the caster was able to set off the spell. The scene shifts to Ainz, where we notice that Sheltier Bloodfallen's name has turned red on the NPC list, indicating that she has betrayed Nazarick. Ainz knows Sheltier will not betray Nazarick, so there is only one other possibility: she is being mind-controlled. The scene turns back to Ainz, who is sitting in the guild with the guild master and a few mithril-ranked adventurers, discussing the vampire who attacked adventurers outside of the city. Ainz recognizes the vampire as Sheltier. The guildmaster wants them to take care of the vampire and keep it from entering the city. Ainz promptly accepted the job, but the mithril-rated adventurers also want to tag along. Ainz warned them that if they come, they will die, but they insisting they want to go. When they went forward to defeat the vampire, the members of Nazarick slaughtered the mithril adventurers because they needed them to keep quiet. Ainz and Albedo approach Sheltier and notice that she is unresponsive. Ainz swiftly begins to perform super tier magic, which is stronger than 10th tier magic, Wish Upon a Star, but the spell was quickly shattered, leaving Ainz stunned because he didn't believe anyone in this world could cast super tier magic. He quickly teleports Albedo and him out of the area. Ainz knows what he must do: defeat Sheltier in order to liberate her from the mind control spell. As a result, Ainz proceeded to the treasury to obtain all of the equipment he would require for the next battle. We can see that every former guild member has a statue in the treasury, and all of their equipment is now in Ainz's possession. As Albedo begs Ainz to let her accompany him in combat, Ainz refuses and promises her that he will return triumphant. Ainz teleports to the location where Sheltier is. He notices that Sheltier is unresponsive, so he begins casting one enchanting spell on him. When he notices that Sheltier is still unresponsive, he realizes that only attack will draw aggro from her, so he begins casting all enchanting spells on himself, and it lasted like 30 seconds. Okay, now he thinks this is a little bit fairer now. He proceeds to cast a super tier level magic spell before Sheltier can even move, making it a little more in his favor. The super tier magic strikes down on Sheltier, and we witness her turn to her fighting gears and finally awaken. They both began exchanging blows.
Maximize magic! Gravity Maelstrom!
Down!
Maximize magic! Hold of Rib! By the way...
And as the combat heated up, Sheltier checked how much mana Ainz had left, and she realized that Ainz still had a massive quantity of mana. She understands that Ainz is only powerful if he has the mana to cast spells. Ainz began attacking Sheltier again as she attempted to heal herself. Sheltier was able to dodge his attacks. As the battle continues, Sheltier checks Ainz's mana pool once again, and notices that Ainz is running low on mana. So Sheltier summons Einherjar, her trump card, to make a clone of herself with the same attributes but no ability to perform magic. She also summoned household monsters and began slaughtering them because her lance can heal her for the damage she causes. Ainz quickly answers back by casting a powerful spell named The Goal of All Life is Death and kill the replica and the household monsters. As Sheltier's HP fell below a particular threshold, Ainz went on the defensive. Using Perfect Warrior, Ainz is able to transform into a warrior. knowing that he can now cast a single spell to one-shot Sheltier. He just has to prevent her from healing by causing damage to him. All he has to do is wait for the cooldown and use the super tier magic again, and the victory will be his. As Sheltier knows what is about to happen next, she started attacking Ainz mindless in hopes of healing off of him, but it was too little too late. Ainz sees an opportunity and returns to his caster form, casting the super tier spell. By utilizing a cash shop item, he was able to negate the cast time and send Sheltier into heaven. The scene turns to Ainz and the rest of the floor guardians gathered in the treasury. Ainz is able to cast a resurrection spell on Sheltier at the cost of 500 million gold. As Ainz cast the spell, the gold began to melt and congregate to form Sheltier's body, and Ainz was successful in resurrecting her. As Sheltier slowly opens her eyes, she's alive again. And this brings the end of the story. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and turn on the notification bell so that you won't miss out on new videos. Until next time, have a good one.